It is 11:40 on a Thursday night. You are already in bed. You told yourself you were done with the phone. You open the bank app anyway, not to check anything specific, just the motion of it, the same way you might check a lock you already know you locked. The direct deposit from 2 days ago is still there. The number is the largest it has been in your life. You scroll up slightly, look at the balance, scroll back down. Set the phone face down on the nightstand. The ceiling looks the same as it did last Thursday, when the number was smaller. The feeling in your chest is the same as it was last Thursday, when the number was smaller. You're aware of this. You don't have a word for what you're aware of. You pick the phone back up. The income doubled. The anxiety didn't move. That gap is what this is about. Not the gap between what you earn and what you spend. The gap between what you've built and what your nervous system is willing to believe about it. That gap has a name. It is not a mindset problem. It is not ingratitude. It is not something a better budgeting system would touch. There is language for this. Consider what you actually do with good financial news. Not what you think you do, what you actually do. The raise comes through, you read the email, you feel something for a moment, brief, clean, almost like landing. Then you close the email, and somewhere between closing it and opening whatever you opened next, the feeling is already gone. Not replaced by a new problem, just gone. Back to the baseline. Back to the low, structureless hum that was running before the email arrived. That hum is not stress about a specific thing. It is not worry about a particular outcome. It is anxiety, sourceless, ambient, indifferent to what just happened in your inbox. And here is what is precise about that word, sourceless. Because you have looked for the source, you have found things to fix and fixed them, moved numbers in the right direction, built the cushion you said you needed. The anxiety didn't consult any of that. So if it is not about the numbers, what is it about? This is where most explanations reach for something easy, a mindset that needs shifting, a gratitude practice that needs starting, a perspective that needs adjusting. But those explanations share one assumption, that the anxiety is responding to your current financial reality, that it is reading the same information you are reading, reaching a different conclusion, and that if you could correct the conclusion, the feeling would follow. That assumption is wrong. Not slightly wrong. Wrong at the level of mechanism. The anxiety is not misreading your financial life. It is not reading your financial life at all. What it is reading is something set long before your financial life began. A calibration. Not a mindset, not a belief. A calibration, a baseline, a set point, the zero that everything else gets measured against. And the question that matters is not how to change it. The question is where it came from. You learned to walk before you could explain walking. You learned faces before you had words for faces. You learned the temperature of rooms, the weight of silences, the specific quality of a Tuesday morning at home before any of it was conscious. Your nervous system was already building its map of the world before you had any say in the cartography. And one of the things it was mapping, quietly, constantly, without your awareness or consent, was money. Not the concept of money, not the rules of money, the feeling of money. It was learning, what does money feel like in this house?
What does enough feel like in this house? Is there tension around it? Is there ease? When something shifts, what happens next? The kitchen table on a Sunday evening. The particular silence before a conversation you weren't supposed to hear, or the absence of that silence. A house where money moved easily and no one lowered their voice about it. Whatever the texture was, your nervous system recorded it, not as a memory you can recall, as a baseline, as the definition of normal. Stop for a moment and consider what that means. Your nervous system finished writing that definition before you earned your first dollar, before you filed your first tax return, before you had any framework for understanding what the numbers in an account actually represented. The calibration was complete, filed, stored somewhere older than language. And it has been running ever since, quietly, comparing every new piece of financial information against an original recording by a version of you that did not yet know what income was. The calibration is not a wound. It is a feature. Every nervous system does this, in every house, regardless of whether that house had too little, enough, or more than enough. The child in financial stability still calibrated. The child in financial ease still calibrated. The calibration is not a story about hardship, it is a story about being human. And the person now lying awake checking their account balance at 11:40 is not broken. They are running a very old program in a life their nervous system was not designed to anticipate.
There are two systems involved here. They do not speak to each other. The first system is the one you know well. It reads the deposit notification, calculates the year-over-year growth, looks at the account balance, and correctly concludes this is better than it was. That system is precise. It understands compounding. It can hold a 10-year projection in mind and feel something close to confidence about it. The second system does not read numbers. It does not read, not the way you mean reading. It reads signal, a continuous low-frequency scan of the environment running constantly beneath every rational thought you have, comparing what it detects against the baseline set before you could read anything. You are driving home after a strong performance review. The rational system is replaying the conversation, noting the implications, calculating what this might mean for next year. The second system is running its own assessment. It is not impressed by the performance review. It does not have a category for performance reviews. It has one question asked on a loop: is this environment safe? And it answers that question using a reference point from 30 years ago. Income is an input to the first system. It has never been an input to the second. Which means every raise, every promotion, every account balance that moves in the right direction lands in a system that can appreciate it and is processed by a system that cannot see it. The relief lasts a few seconds. That is the first system updating. Then the second system returns its assessment, unchanged. Not because something is wrong with you, because the second system was never part of the transaction. You have been trying to solve a problem in one system by changing variables in the other. Not because you made an error in judgment, because from the inside, it just feels like anxiety. Sourceless, persistent, running on its own schedule. The anxiety is not a verdict. It is not the income telling you it is not enough. It is not a prediction. It is not your nervous system detecting something your spreadsheet is missing. It is a system built before your financial life existed doing the job it was built to do, running its scan, returning its assessment, using the only reference point it has ever had. The system is not malfunctioning. It is working exactly as designed, in an environment it was never designed for. You have spent years trying to satisfy a system that cannot be satisfied through financial action, not because you haven't done enough, because the system doing the assessing does not have access to what you've done. It cannot read the account balance. It cannot weigh the emergency fund. It cannot process the retirement projections or the debt-to-income ratio or the net worth statement from last December. It has one input, and that input stopped updating before you ever received your first paycheck. So the anxiety persists, not as failure, not as evidence of a gap you haven't closed yet, as the output of an old system running on old data in a life that has moved far past the environment that system was built for. The gap between the income and the feeling is not a failure of building. It is a structural feature of being human. And here's what actually shifts when you understand this. Not the anxiety, the relationship to it. Before this, the anxiety was evidence of something wrong, of a threshold not yet reached, of more work required. Now it is something different. It is signal from a very old system, doing its job in the wrong century. It is still 11:40. The phone is still face down on the nightstand. The ceiling is the same ceiling. If you pick the phone up again tonight, the number will be what it was. The feeling in your chest will likely be familiar. But something has changed. Not the number, not the ceiling, not the anxiety itself. The question you are holding is different now. It is no longer, why doesn't this feel like enough? It is something quieter, something that does not need the number to answer it. The system is still running. It will run tonight. It will run when the next deposit clears. It will run when the next threshold is reached. It was built before you had language. It will keep doing what it was built to do. And somewhere in the gap between the income and the feeling, between the number on the screen and the hum that the number cannot touch, that is not a place where something went wrong. That is just what it is to carry a nervous system into a life it never anticipated. The phone is still there.